Can you legally work multiple full-time jobs at the same time? Yeah. It's a little more complicated than that. Today we're diving into the high-stakes world of overemployment, where there are legal traps and mines set throughout employment contracts that you definitely never read. According to research from Resume Builder, 79% of remote workers want to get a second job. But most don't realize the dangerous game that they're getting themselves into, which could end in immediate termination from all your jobs, instant career-ending blacklisting, and even lawsuits. I've researched everything that I can find about the legality and cases that were opened against overemployed people, like a construction manager who was sued for $167,000 and dozens of Equifax employees who were immediately fired when they found out that they were working more than one job. And in this video, we'll go through exactly what you need to look out for in your employment contract and the best strategies to avoid getting caught with your hand deep in the cookie jar. That being said, overemployment is not all doom and gloom. Overemployment might be the most powerful wealth building strategy without acquiring any new skills. And I know that because I was overemployed for 4 years with 3 jobs. And more importantly, I did not face any legal ramifications. Touch wood. And the difference between disaster and financial freedom is understanding exactly what you're going to walk into. So what is overemployment and what makes it different from moonlighting or a side hustle? Simple. This isn't about grinding on evenings or weekends. It's about using the same 9 to 5 or whatever your normal hours are, but working for multiple companies. And when I was balancing my 3 jobs, I never worked past 5 p.m., no late nights, no weekend hustle, just strategic calendar management and setting the right expectations on each role. Speaking of which, consider subscribing. So blanket statement, is overemployment legal? As I said earlier, no. There's no specific law in the US that bars someone working multiple jobs. That's because the US runs on an at-will employment system, meaning that you can work for whoever you want and your employer can fire you whenever they want, for the most part. Here's the 10 things to look out for. The first one being, probably you expected this, a non-compete clause. This is the most obvious and it bars you from working for competitors. And this is kind of annoying because usually the easiest jobs to get are for the competitors. The job applications are almost exactly the same, and if you've done one job, you can do the other. And the companies are always trying to poach talent from each other, so it's an obvious choice. But for the love of everything, don't do it. I have read so many instances of people getting caught doing exactly this. Now I know that my first job was at Merrill Lynch, which was under the umbrella of Bank of America. And the obvious choice for me was to work for another bank. It would have been very easy and the skill set would have transferred over. While it was tempting, I deliberately chose entire different sectors for job 2 and 3 to make sure that I wasn't going to be busted for such an easy thing. It's worth the time to have a setup that will be a little more bulletproof. Next up, so moonlighting, as we discussed earlier, is where outside of your normal work hours, you work a second job. And a lot of companies will require you to disclose any other jobs or even any other income streams outside of work. Now, if you see this language, tread a little bit carefully because obviously you won't be reporting any of the outside work that you're doing. And it can be a slight sign that the company is not OE friendly. Take it as a sign of warning. Now, what you definitely need to avoid is an exclusivity clause. This is where the company will state that they expect your full time and attention for only this job. No other jobs, period. And if you're signing on with a job like this, you're already on thin ice. And probably their guard is up. And I would caution against it, because there are plenty of opportunities out there, it's probably not worth it. Next up is an intellectual property assignment. This is a clause that will claim ownership over anything you create, even sometimes out of work hours. And if job 1 and 2 have this similar language over competing IP knowledge, this could get you dragged into a nightmare fight over who exactly owns your work. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something to look out for. Same with the next one, continuous background checks. So remember those Equifax employees that got busted? They actually used their own software, the work number, to run continuous background checks on their employees monthly. And a lot of companies will say in their employment contract that they will continuously run background checks on you, not only when you're hired. Now, usually this is a very bad thing, but there's an easy way around it. Most companies use Equifax, the work number, and you can actually freeze your account on it. If you look up your work number profile, create an account, and then you have to pay a small fee, but it will allow you to completely freeze and make sure that your background check won't show up any of these other opportunities that you're signing on to. Next up is a device monitoring clause. Now, this is something that most people would just skip right by because it's standard legal language, but when you're working multiple jobs, it could get you caught. It basically means that they're using monitor tools to detect everything. This can be network traffic, USB usage, or even your webcam activity. And for that reason, always use a separate laptop for each job. It can be very tempting to do it all on one device. It's much easier, but you run the risk of getting found out. Also, get one of those webcam flippy things. You never know what they might see. And particularly as I know that most of my work days are spent naked. Anyway, next up is a location restriction. This would be the case where if one job requires you to be in California, but the other requires you to be in Texas. And you'd be surprised. I had to deny a couple of offers even when they were remote because they said that I needed to be based in a certain state or a certain time zone. So just be careful. Next up, termination clauses. This is a more broad category because every company spells them out differently, but look for phrases or sentences like causes for dismissal. And this is because a lot of contracts may explicitly spell out that undisclosed employments will be grounds to fire you based on. And it just gives you a little more flavor and context into the company that you'll be working for. Is it on their radar? Are they aware of it? Do they view it as hostile? Just be aware. And next up, industry-specific rules. If you're working for finance, healthcare, insurance, or any government-related contracts, you have to go through some extra hoops. For instance, FINRA disclosures, licensing reporting, or security clearance just adds another layer of complexity to whatever you're doing. That being said, those are usually the best industries to go into because they are slower and more bloated. But just make sure that you have all your ducks in a row before going into it. And the bottom line is, just read your employment contract. They're meant to be boring and they don't expect people to actually go through all the details. But if you want to survive overemployment, make sure to ask necessary questions without revealing yourself, just to see why exactly those statements were said within the contract. Okay, so what if you get caught? The most common outcome is that you will just be fired. But then there is this small minority where the company will alert other companies that you're working for and you'll get fired from all of them. Or even worse, you'll be sued. And there were two specific examples that I could find for people getting sued. The first was in a case called Triton Construction versus Eastern Shore. And basically this was where a guy was working two jobs, both in construction, and he was funneling business from the first one into the second one. And he was sued and had to pay $167,000 in damage. Now, obviously, this is just straight up fraud and it's pretty easy to avoid. And the second case was called Techno Light versus EMCOD or MCOD. Basically, it was a similar scenario where an employee was actively poaching clients from one company to the other. In both of these cases, people were lying and there was outright fraud happening. But I really couldn't find any specific examples of people getting sued just for being overemployed and not committing anything else on top of it. But this is all worst case scenario, assuming that you are found out. And there are 5 simple things that you can do to avoid getting found out to start off with. This obviously is not legal advice, random dude on the internet, but I was able to go through overemployment without facing any issues. So the first, we already discussed this, don't work for competitors, and I even took it a step further of not working in the same industry. The second is not to talk about it. First rule of Fight Club. Now yes, I'm talking about it, but I have scaled back to only working one job, so I am not overemployed anymore. And since nobody's really giving the full inside scoop that I could find, I thought it was my duty to share it, in case anyone else wanted to pursue it. The third is to be average and invisible. Don't be a superstar, but don't be a slacker. Blend in to the middle. Just meet your expectations, no more, and no less. And I would say the most common way that people are found out is from a fluctuating workload. Sometimes they're overperforming, and then sometimes they're missing meetings and not hitting their deadlines. Just make sure that you have set the expectations low enough so that when you onboard a second, third, fourth job, it is not affecting the quality of your work, you're not missing meetings, and you're not missing deadlines. Those are some easy red flags that will be raised and put you on the radar, which can be avoided pretty simply. Next up, we already spoke about this, but it needs to be said again, use separate devices. 2 jobs, 2 laptops, and if possible, 2 networks. VPNs are your friend in this scenario. And lastly, have an exit strategy. Don't overstay your welcome, my lord is it tempting, but formulate a plan from the start. Are you using overemployment to pay off debt? Are you using it to raise some capital, to put a down payment on a house? Or are you simply using it to buy back time and retire? Whatever it is, make sure that it's spelled out in the beginning, and when you reach your goal, you get out. Overemployment truly is the biggest career hack that I have seen in my life. You don't need any skills. You don't need to build a startup. You just play the system quietly. And as the overemployment community would say, C.Y.A. cover your ass. Now, there are many other ways to avoid scrutiny, and I made a whole video detailing my 10 commandments to avoid getting caught while overemployed. Check it out. As always, subscribe. Thanks for watching.